Good morning. My name is Richard Wong. I am your tour guide for Ohana Walking Tours. And what we do is a historical walking tour of the palace area here in Honolulu. Basically, I am a retired Honolulu police officer, and history is kind of my hobby. I learned a long time ago about Hawaiian history and finally have the opportunity to use it. To start the tour, I like to introduce myself. Again, Richard Wong. My family on the Chinese side, my father's side, first came to Hawaii in 1880 as part of the sugar plantations work program, bringing in Chinese immigrants. My great-grandparents came to work on the plantation run by Libby McNeil and Libby in the Ka'alaya area of the island of Oahu. After a 5-year contract, my great-grandparents went back to China. My grandfather decided he could make a better living in Honolulu rather than living on a farm in China, so he came back. And he would go back home every 5 years. And when he went back, my father was born, and 5 years later, my uncle, another uncle, 10 years later. And all of them moved here to Honolulu, and I have many cousins, along with myself, my generation, that still live here, and we have our kids and grandkids. So it's been 5 and 6 generations of my family being here in Hawaii.
Perfect.
The area of Honolulu itself, the city did not get the name Honolulu until 1859 when it was adopted. Hono meaning bay and Lulu meaning peaceful. The harbor, which the city is based around, was first discovered by Captain William Brown of the frigate the Butterworth in 1793. He was the first man to sail a ship into Honolulu Harbor and use it as an anchorage. He found that the harbor itself was a very safe anchorage once you got in the channel, which was narrow. And he named the area Fairhaven. Other captains that followed him sort of just called it Brown's Harbor. It was a safe place. Captain Brown made friends with King Kahikili and later his son Kalani Kupuli, King of Oahu. And as a matter of fact, the king actually killed Captain Brown to seize his ships to use to make war with Kamehameha. Unfortunately, his plot failed after killing Brown in the first mate and seizing the 2 ships. The crew expelled him from the ship outside of Honolulu Harbor, and he had to come back in on a canoe and wait for Kamehameha to come. It ended up to be a great plot that never worked. Now, the area behind me here, the statue of Kamehameha. It's an 8.5-foot tall bronze statue. It was created in 1878 by the legislature of the Kingdom of the Sandwich Islands and David Kalakaua, king. The statue was created by a commission that had been put together to honor the 100th anniversary of the arrival of Captain Cook in Hawaii. Cook had met Kamehameha and was very interested in this young warrior. Kamehameha had been not only a great warrior and athlete, but an astute student of Western ways, and he believed that he could combine both cultures to create a lasting kingdom. And he did. Unfortunately, at the time of the statues being made, the only portrait of Kamehameha was of an elderly gentleman with white hair. So Kalakaua needed a model for the statue. And he chose a young man named John Timoteo Baker from his court. Baker was considered the most handsome man in Kalakaua's court. There is a photograph of him in the palace itself, and under the photograph are the words, "the most handsome man in court." Although, however, Baker was not Hawaiian. He was of Tahitian and Caucasian ancestry, but he made a good model. He was a big athletic man. The commission selected an American sculptor named John Ridgway Gould, who was residing in Florence at the time, to make the statue. In 1879, the statue was cast in Paris. Upon its completion, it was sent to Germany to board a ship. The ship sailed for Honolulu with the new statue. About 2 months after its proposed arrival time, the ship hadn't gotten here. And the commission was beginning to worry a little. Then word came that the ship had sank and burned off of the Port Stanley in the Falkland Islands, and the statue had been lost along with the ship's crew and cargo. But they'd insured it, so they went back, created the second statue that we have here. After this statue had been commissioned, an English captain sailed into Honolulu Harbor. He met the commissioner for the statue commission and told him, you know, outside of Port Stanley on a hill, I found a statue. It's damaged and can be repaired. I bought it for $500. If you gave me $850, it's yours. So the commission took the statue. They repaired it, and that statue sits in the square at Hawaii on the Big Island's Kahala Coast until today. A third statue similar to this one was made, and that sits in the Tsunami Memorial Park in Hilo. Hilo was devastated twice by tsunami, 1946 and 1960. The 1946 tsunami was generated by an earthquake in the Aleutian Islands. The 1960 by an earthquake in Peru. The unfortunate thing about the devastation of Hilo and the loss of life was that both tsunamis occurred on April 1st, leading to major destruction and loss of life, not only on the Big Island of Hawaii, but also here on the windward side of Oahu. There's a fourth statue, a replica. That statue and the replica of the statue of Father Damien, which sits in front of the Capitol building, sit in the United States Halls of Congress. Every state in the United States has two statues set into the center rotunda of the hall, at the hall of the United States Congress building. Last year, the commission there built another building, put them all in there, because in the past you had to go and get what your legislature, your congressman, to take you in to see these statues. You know, it's a hard thing with setting schedules and getting people in and out. So now it's made easy. You can just go into the new pavilion and view all the statues from all the 50 states.